So another thing I always find interesting is how many things that become anime don't always necessarily start off as just manga. Sometimes it starts from the novel sources.
Yes.
Sometimes it's an adaptation of a live action thing. I mean, I've seen, we got the Vampire Hunter D novels turned into classics of anime. We have novels like Slayers turned into some of the most entertaining stuff. We have live action shows like Skullman and other things from and Kikaider from the old days being redone as animation, and it's
It's manga. Yeah.
And it's just funny because sometimes you notice that these people, like when you do these things in animated form, especially the live action stuff, it looks more impressive than the live action stuff.
Yeah, it can be because when you're telling a story in live action, you've got certain physical constraints. When you're telling a story in animation, you've got different physical constraints. And you've got different opportunities to do things, which is why most science fiction in Japan is animated, because who can afford the American-style budgets? You know, I mean, the average American movie costs as much to make as an entire year's production of live-action movies in Japan. So, you know, animation has become the big thing for science fiction. But, yeah, the whole intertextuality things coming out in multiple formats. You know, Marduk Scramble is coming out as a series of 3 movies right now. So there's a lot of interesting back and forth on that. And the differences between the two. You can have a mediocre manga turn into an excellent anime.
I think that just out off the top of my head, like a good example was, for example, Yuzo Takada's Blue Seed, which was an average manga, but because the anime expanded on a lot of the characters, it turned into a phenomenon when it came out, and especially here in the States.
Yeah, yeah, and I love the fact that on the Laserdisc box, you've got the characters on Market Street with a huge kaiju in the middle of the street and the Hobart building right behind it.
Oh my God. Speaking of Laserdisc, I noticed that a lot of things have changed, particularly towards how fans get their anime. Because I remember in the Laserdisc age, you could buy the imported Laserdisc, and they had like a little subtitle track anyway. Then the DVD age came out, we had the region coding. And we had the fan subs back in the day where you'd send someone money to purchase just a blank tape and then they just put it on it. Now you just download through the internet.
Right.
And especially with the internet now, even with licensing, it doesn't always necessarily stop the fan subbing. And I just want to know, what's your opinion generally on the idea of fan subbing?
Fan subbing was an incredibly wonderful thing for promoting anime back in the early days. It was the only way you could get subtitled things for a lot of titles. There was very little available commercially in the U.S. You could easily, for just pocket money, buy literally every anime produced in a year and have money left over, even though $50, $75 was not an unusual price for a VHS tape. But there was just so few. But over time, more and more things became available, and fan subbing became less of an important thing. Online access, however, is important. So the increasing and legitimate streaming, which is
Funimation.com.
Funimation and Crunchyroll and Hulu and so forth, is providing a lot of that great feeding of new titles for people.
I've actually been keeping up a lot with the One Piece episodes I've missed through Hulu since Funimation's licensed it through them.
Yeah.
And we get them like a week after Japan.
And part of the thing is when you had the Mega Upload shutdown, the streaming sites, the legitimate streaming sites, saw a jump in usage of about 20% in 5 days.
Also because the fact is, not every fanboy or every internet person is someone who just wants something for free. They will get it whatever means necessary. And if you just put some advertisements on, well, just deal with the ads.
The big problem with streaming sites is being able to get money, being able to cover the costs. And that's beginning to happen. Companies now are beginning to see some profit on it. It's not a huge amount. But it could also become a great way for advertising a series by having it streamed, and then people now have an awareness of it, so when the DVD comes out, they're more likely to pick it up.
So, outside of just animation, what kind of other things do you like from Japanese pop culture that have been a major part of your fandom?
Some live action stuff. I pick up a lot of different films. I'm really enjoying, and a lot of his fans don't like the more recent movies. I'm really enjoying the recent films of Takeshi Miike.
Miike, always a dividing force among people.
And for example, Yakuza Like a Dragon is a wonderful film if you like a good action shoot-up film.
I was this close to getting the Blu-ray upstairs.
Yeah, they have the Crow Zero I'm hoping that eventually they'll license the second movie, which I hear is better than the first.
They were actually showing it today or yesterday.
Yeah.
Double check the schedule.
But you know, I'm enjoying his stuff and things. I read a lot of nonfiction, a lot of books about Japan. So I just finished reading Beautiful Fighting Girl, which is a great study on the fighting girl character in anime and manga in relation to its fan culture. Face it, we don't have very many fighting girl characters in America. We've got Mulan in Disney's movie and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and that is pretty much it.
Well, you also got like the American comic book scene with the female superheroes.
Yeah, but those are not girls; those are women.
That's
true. You know, Amazon characters based, you know, going back to the quintessential Amazon Wonder Woman, and that's a crucial difference between the fighting girl character and the fighting woman character. You know, let's face it, Sailor Moon is very different than, you know, She-Hulk.
And so many thankful things. So just continuing on the vein of like differences, like especially because you brought up now just Japanese heroism and Western heroism. I mean, I once read that the basic theme of, for example, shonen manga is dreams, will, and friendship.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if like you ever seen anything outside of Japanese culture that is similar to that kind of vein.
To tell you the truth, I pretty much stopped following a lot of American culture stuff in the early 1970s. When I went off to college, I didn't have a TV, and I made a point of not getting a TV so that I would spend more time reading. And so my main entertainment as a student tended to be things related to my major that were not related to my classes. So, because that helped, you know, for academic reasons. And then when I graduated, I eventually got a TV, but I got a TV so I could hook a VCR up to it and watch foreign films and anime and so forth. So there's a lot I don't know about American popular culture.
So you've been coming to Fanime how many years now?
Oh, it's probably 12, 13 years maybe.
Okay.
And it started out as a fan and then later as a guest.
I gotta ask, like, any particularly favorite experiences you've had as a longtime guest of the convention?
Well, actually, first as a fan, when I got to meet Steve Bennett, because I had been noticing his name in the credits of so many anime as one of the people in the Japanese staff of the thing. And so he was a guest of Fanime, and I went to find out about it. He was talking about his career starting when he was a high school kid in Japan. He was an army brat. And how he'd gotten involved working on Urusei Yatsura. You know, later found out the first thing he did was the in-between drawings for the feat of Onsen Mark as he's having his entrance into the series.
So just basically, how long do you think this phenomenon that is anime will continue to build and be as big as it is?
I think it'll continue to be as big for a long time. It still hasn't broken into the mainstream. It's just a really large niche market. And as a niche market, I think maybe someday it may become part of the mainstream, but it'll do so by very slowly intertwining into mainstream entertainment. Face it, you know, primetime TV shows on the entertainment industry don't talk about anime. They talk about Hollywood. Someday if they start talking about anime or new manga releases, then we'll reach somewhere.
Okay, my last question is, just because I've noticed, for example, Stan Lee of Marvel Comics fame has made his mark within anime and manga with his co-production with Hiroyuki I'm trying to remember the name of Takei, you know, the creator who created Shaman King.
Mm-hmm.
With their Ultimo manga, he's helped work on the anime called Hero Man. And I also noticed how Marvel has broken into anime with 4 adaptations based on Iron Man, Wolverine, X-Men, and Blade. And I just say, what do you think about this notion now for American creators and whatnot to suddenly look to Japan and its style?
I think there's always been a certain degree of cross-fertilization between the American industry and non-American industry. 1960s, basically, if you look at the credits on the American comic books, you realize a lot of names don't sound that European. The U.S. raided the Philippines. We got the cream of the crop of the Philippine comic book artists, and they came to America and became the artists for American comic books in the 60s. The cross-fertilization with Japan, of course, goes back to, American companies subcontracting work to Japanese companies. Now we do it mostly to Korean companies. But, co-production type of things, producing, taking an American product, doing an original thing with it overseas, re-importing it to the U.S., that type of thing sounds much more interesting. I'm also interested about Americans who go to Japan because they can't do what they want to here. Felipe Smith is a great example. He couldn't do the kind of work he wanted here, and then he discovered manga because he really didn't know about it when he moved to LA to try to get into animation. And he quickly learned Japanese, and now he's being published in manga magazines by Kodansha in Japan.
Awesome. All right, thank you, Gilles. This is Gilles Poitras.
I think you're doing a good French pronunciation. Poitras is the way we usually anglicize it.
I'm just trying my best.
Yeah, and if there's any Poitras out there watching this, we're cousins, because every Poitras in North America is descended from one immigrant.
Well, this has been Gilles Poitras, and hopefully he and I will continue our journey on Fanime, and hopefully you'll come next year and join us as well. See ya.